Hello, this is Max Drake. I'd like to talk to you about glide pages. So this is a new thing that seems to have just come out this month. So this is very exciting stuff. Anyway, I watched the video and they had some interesting little use cases which I'll actually talk through because it was sort of the process that I was looking at and doing some of the things. So the first use case was really this idea of people out selling using the mobile app and putting in data about sales that they were doing. So they've got it on a tablet, on the phone. They were doing sales outside. So it was coming into the office and the office actually had to prove those sales before they actually went on to the next step through there. There was also another example where they'd almost got like a shop with lots of items on that you could actually go and select and do things like that. So that was another one through there. So just straight away, when you actually look at the app, it's similar to the mobile app, is that it has these funny curved fire Glideapps page. So they generate these odd little things. So you're suddenly thinking, well, if that was something like a sales page or something like that, how'd you get it out there to other people? And so I suddenly thought, well, can you embed it in another page? So can you embed it in a website that you've got? So I got a WordPress website and I actually decided to try and use an iframe to actually bring that app inside that web page inside another web page to steam up. And this is what actually happened. Firefox can't open this page. To protect your security, Glide page will not allow Firefox to open the page. Now that's good and bad. If it was a sales thing of, it's a shop or something like that, and your website is your WordPress website is already known or something like that, then to a certain extent that's a way of good connected selling or whatever it's called that you can actually do. Because how are they going to find this obscure thing? A little link or something like that may not work. But anyway, it didn't let it open in an iframe. I then tried an embed code through here, and it would actually just it labeled a clickable link through there. So I thought, well, okay, then the third way that we can actually do it with it is that we can actually put an image and then we can actually have a click on me image. So we can actually open the image, a new tab through there, and hopefully, no, that's going to open the image. There is one. It's actually got a link through there that it will actually open it opens this page through there. So all you do is just link the URL to the image, and so that you can show a picture of the sales items that it looks like the shop front that you've got. You can click on it, and it'll actually take it through there. So that was one of the ones that I wanted to do. So that was the idea behind, can you embed it inside something else? So you can't as easily, but you can into an image and just put a URL link to it. The next one that I actually had was this thing of the idea of the approval, so that you come through here, you maybe have an approval tick box or something like that, or you edit that particular item and somebody inside ticks a thing and says, yes, that's allowed. Oh, sorry, just going back to the other ones of where you've got it. So from the point of view of when you're doing this, if you're clicking that link, it's like you're opening that link up for the first time. So therefore, if this is an intranet, so that was the other idea. If it's inside a business, if inside an office's intranet, so it's not internet outside, but it's intranet within the office or something like that, you may want to be able to access that data. But then again, you may need to log in. So therefore, maybe that's the reason why they're not letting you open the pages, because they just don't want anybody going there. It's got to be semi-protected, most probably though. But as soon as when you go and open that page, it's going to say, give me your login or your bugger off. I'm not going to let you open the page up like that. I've got the open one, so I haven't been able to test that as such. Well, I haven't tested it, just thought about it recently. So that may be another issue of linkages through there, of actually doing some protection. Anyway, the next point is that we get to the point where we actually have something and we're going through the approvals, and we get to this one here and we're suddenly thinking, oh, that's above my pay grade, I've got to pass the buck with that or ask somebody else about that before I can approve that. So this is dynamic data. So something might come on through there, and this is another item. So I've got dates down here. I've got 3 columns of data through here. If I click on this, I've got an awful lot more data that I can actually access through that particular point, because I can edit other lines on that. But I can suddenly say, oh, it's a 4th one down. But if this is dynamic data and I send the link off to somebody for their approval and they don't see it until the end of the day, that 4th line might have disappeared right off onto the next page. So How do I do that? So normally what you do is either you do a screenshot or else you do take a print off. So you take a print of the page, you do a PDF page or something like that, and you'd ring the one that you want, and you'd say, I'm querying this, can you give me something? So that there's an accountability going down as to who's done what. Now, if you just do a screenshot, screenshots end up in all sorts of shapes and sizes and things like that. And if you're actually keeping hard copies, as you may legally be required to do for some sort of accountability in a future audit or something like that, they might want something in a proper page format. So how do we do that? So there was no, how do I actually print this off? But I suddenly realized that inside Firefox, you can actually go into print, and you can actually save to PDF. You can then print off this page here. You've got this extra little bit of information all on the pages on the side, which is a little bit scrappy, but you can save that there. Then you can say fourth one down on that thing, and then it's clear as to which one you're doing because it's frozen in time. So you've got fixed data rather than dynamic data that you're actually responding to. Now, I did put a query on the forum about this, and somebody came back and they said, well, you use integrations like Zapier or something and suck the thing out and do. And I thought, too complicated? No, just want something simple, through that. So this is a simple interface. So what it reminds me of in a way is the old data entry. You'd have some fancy database, they'd create a form that when you hit the form, it would come up, and then people could actually just do their data entry or add things in or manipulate some of the data inside that. So this is, you can actually have this as part of a process with people, and you can most probably automate this with, something like UiPath or something where with that, is that they come in and then there's a certain process that they come through and they need to do something. Like the next bit of the process might be they've got to say the invoice number that they've got to attach to something there, or it's got to go to a certain part of the processing. Oh, this is to do with this, so it's got to go to that particular department to go and do that. So another thing might be in the edit is that the next on-flow thing is you're adding the field that it's got to then go to somebody else to do that. So those were some of the issues that I started to think about. Is bit for the business process is that you're gathering information within the apps, you're then sending it through, and this is the next part of the process. And then a further part of the process is that we've gathered all of this data, we now need to report on that data. So we need to just see how we're doing on sales and things, whether we're good in some areas, whether certain products are selling better than other products, which ones should we be aiming to manufacture more of, etc., etc. So suddenly it's starting to work in with a lot of the business flow. So I thought, oh, this is seriously cool as far as doing those sorts of things go. So again, I talked about the thing. So the next part that I just want to drop through here that started to actually think is, do we use data tables, glide tables, or do we use Google Sheets? So when we actually go and hit a new project through here, we've now got two choices. We can either have a mobile app or we can have a web page. So let's just hit a mobile app and go continue. And then it says what side we want, who cares about that. And it says select our source of data. So we can have Google Sheets or we can have glide tables. But because the glide tables is glued inside the app itself, if you've got something else, I can't reach in and get that data. So I can only get that. Now, in the future, you can get Airtables. Now, Airtables is external as well. And I think I've seen some talk on Excel. So that's most probably Excel Online. So that one there. So you need an external data source so that the glide tables doesn't work if that is only if you're going to try and link a web app and a mobile app as well. So just be aware of that. So if we close that down and we go to a new project again, and we go to a web page continue, again, we have the same choice. We can either do glide tables or we can do a Google Sheets. Now, again, so you really got to select the Google Sheets because it's something both the external apps and the web pages can go and reach in and grab. Now, I think the way that the logic behind the building the glide tables was the fact that they are sitting on Glide server. So Glide servers have their apps and their tables there next to each other, so they can talk really, really quickly. Whereas the Google Sheets are out on Google's server somewhere else. So they've got to go and send HTTP requests or whatever both ways, or get some posts and prints and things, and they've got to send them across, update the fields, or send them back and do all of those sorts of things. So there's this extra step to going that extra distance. So one of the ways that they do that, so initially the the Glide tables were a lot faster, but suddenly now I think even if you've got Google Sheets, all of that data is being pulled into the Glide table, and then it's getting written back to the Google Sheets, most probably a slower speed, but it doesn't matter because you've got the data in there that you can respond to quite quickly. So basically what it's saying is we're going back to where I was actually working, because I haven't done that much with Google Tables. I've just done a little lost and found app, and that one I decided to use Google Tables from the very first get-go. And then I thought about it later, because I was actually just thinking of actually making a web page where people could go and look up that stuff. Not a web app, but just a web page, just so that there was a place where people could actually see what the lost and found was. And I suddenly thought, well, I used the table, and I should have maybe used a Google Sheet at the back, because then I could have pulled that through from my web pages or something like that, just as a thought later on. So it was a sort of like thinking about how to build things and what's the best way and what to do. So having the Google table makes the apps work really fast. I did notice over time that I found my personal finance app, which I've used all the time to actually just every time I go out and spend some money, I put it in the app so I actually know where I am and know where my spends are. But I did find that it was a little bit slow, especially since I started to add a whole load of tabs. So it comes down, and I thought I'd start to think about that. And a couple of things surprised me, first of all. The first thing that surprised me was that you can actually export the data. I never really thought about the Google tables, but then I thought, well, how do you get the data out of it if you've done them in the data? But inside settings data, you can actually export the app data. And when you export the app data, it comes out as a .ods file. Never come across that before. But it's an open office format. And what that means is that if you download it, you can open it in either Google or in Excel or Google Sheets, and it actually just has a tab for each, a sheet for each tab that you actually have with all of the data in there. So it actually drops it in as a spreadsheet format. So that's absolutely brilliant. But the thing is, you can't push stuff into the Glide table. Or I did see, and in the forum, somebody was using a Python script to actually upload information through there. So when I thought about it, and the fact that you're coming in from outside, you've got all these mobile apps who are putting new data in, so they're creating data into there. So that's really good. And then the web app is the next part of the process that you're building. So from a business or enterprise tool, it's really good because it's kind of going through the flow. We're gathering, we're modifying or putting other information, so categorizing stuff so that it can go into the right areas to then be processed and further things. And then the last part will be some form of reporting on that information. So we're going back to the Google tables, but one of the things which I suddenly thought about when I thought about the Glide tables was what happens when you want to update something. Now, this is when I sort of jump again and start looking at my barbershop app. Now, I did an app that was based on, I did a template, and it seems to be quite popular. Basically, it was a small business one. So it was basically people selling hours or time. And so they'd have a certain time slot, so it could be a personal trainer that you book certain times and they would do certain activities. This was based on a barbershop that could be changed. It could be used for a spa, it could be used for hairdressers, it could be used for anything else where you allocate time. And then the other thing with this is it also allocated different services. I want to get my hair cut, I want to get my hair dyed, I want my fingernails done, I want my eyebrows done. You know, you could offer a whole lot of different services through there. So there was another thing. So the client app, they could choose a time that they wanted and they could choose a service that they wanted. So straight away, the people who are offering that services, they could see what things they were coming up so that they could actually plan for them in a way. So that was the app that I did. And when I actually built the app, I built one which was client facing, and then I actually had to build one that was staff facing. And this is where I think this web pages are actually brilliant, because I end up suddenly saying, well, to build the staff-facing one, basically you've got to build it from scratch, because the first thing you've got to do is go and link to the other spreadsheet. So you've got to go and link to the clients at where all the client data is being landed onto this spreadsheet. You've got to then link to that spreadsheet and then build your app based on that. So it wasn't like the client one, you could actually have most of the things set up initially most of the way, but the other one you didn't. You actually had to start from scratch. So I wasn't pleased with that, whereas this one here allows you to just reach into that app and actually pull that information out and see it and slice it and dice it with the thing. So when I was looking at this from a business app point of view and how it do, I suddenly thought, well, how would I use it, and how can I find an example of where I used it? And then I thought, well, actually, the barbershop or the small business app was the ideal place where you'd do that. So you just have the simple app on the front end, and then you just pull that data out and maybe add to it. So I started to look at that. So this is when I actually built this app. So I actually just grabbed into the sheet, and I actually just took one of them, and I said, okay, then I'm going to make a table based on one of the hairdressers, pull that information through so that he can see what's coming up. Now, I haven't played with this for a while yet, so this information is a little bit old. But what I actually had was, no, I think we're going to be booking. So when I actually came into here, I've got a bit of an app built on this. So what I'm allowed to do is that there's certain things that need to be done from the client side of things. So the client needs to know what options he's got as far as the services being offered. He wants a certain time of day, and he's got to give his identity as to who it is, and he's got to give the date and the time, and then we're good for that. From the point of view of the barber or the person who's offering the services, he might want to on-sell things like you'd come in for a haircut, would you like shampoo with that or something like that, or would you like your eyebrows dyed blue and pink? So they can offer add-on services and things like that, and so they can actually see, and they can add another column in there to suddenly say, and then maybe they can also do a count on that for the number of times that client comes in, so that they can offer them special offers because they're a loyal client. Or they can put some extra details in about that particular client, is that they have certain preferences, or they will take certain on-sells, whereas other ones may not at all. So you can actually add extra features through here for adding things on. And this becomes very easy. There's a tab for this particular person, there's a tab for that person, and then they can actually just manage those things. Then you can take that data and then integrate it into doing reports so that they can evaluate the data that they've got. So this was the next thing that started to worry me, is that to a certain extent we got this back end of the Google Sheets. There's certain functionality which is actually working in the Glide tables themselves. There's other actions that are actually happening. So as part of that action where they link and talk between 2 or 3 different sheets, there's all these row references that are created inside from the Google tables is being pushed through to Google Sheets. But the Google Sheets is where the repository of the information comes and lands, that you can reach in and grab it from another place. Now, you don't want too many tabs down the bottom here. And the reason you don't want too many tabs, sorry, I forgot, sorry, 3S. The reason you don't want too many tabs is because it starts slowing things down. You actually want your spreadsheet where you're actually dropping data into or you're pulling data from to be as lightweight as possible so that it's fast. The more tabs, the more information you've got on there, the slower it's going to be. So what you've got to think about then is, how do I build the app if I'm actually using the Google Sheets? How do I keep it as lightweight as possible? Well, one of the things that you can do is that you can actually just have the minimum amount of data that you actually need on that sheet. And you can add other data somewhere else. Now, I would still suggest that you actually have your spreadsheet stuff where you're actually linking in from the web page side of things, that you actually hook onto the same page, so the same spreadsheet as such, because then you're getting dynamic, you're getting as live as it actually gets. Now, if that's not as critical, what I would actually say you do is that you actually pull that data out into another sheet. So the way that we do that, so when I actually thought about that, I suddenly thought, well, I want a very lightweight Google sheet. So I don't want to use things like GAS, which is a Google Apps scripts at the back of the Google Sheet. I want it as lightweight as possible. Any actions that I actually want to do, I want to do within the within the Glide table. So do all of those actions, which is if and the logic and stuff that you do inside there, because that is as close as your app as possible. So you still want the app to be as fast, because that's the gathering data that you want. So your reporting data that you actually want, you want to be able to pull that information from this. So this is the original one which actually takes the information in. So what we can actually do is that we can create another one. So that one's just called welcome CLI login. This one here is called report. So what I can actually do in here, so I start to look at that. So how do I link those things up? So I found this article here, which was how to link data between multiple spreadsheets, blah, 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 and how you link them within the spreadsheets themselves, and how do you link to different spreadsheets, which is what we want. So we actually want to pull the raw data out into here, and then we can manipulate and report and do the stuff. And that's not causing any disruption to our lightweight app. So we can do Google Apps sheet logic through here, or we can do lists, and we can do a whole load of pivot tables, we can do graphs, we can do big sums, we can do filters and cutting and slicing and dicing and all sorts of things in here. And it is not doing anything, because basically all we've done is taken a copy of the data and brought it across. So how do we do that? Well, basically, if we actually look, there's actually a bit of code called import. Stuff it, we do it here. Now, and then we just call it. It's a little function called import range. And what that needs is it needs the original website address, which is this one up here. Boom. So we just pasted that up there. And the second thing it needs is it needs the area of stuff that we can do. Now, how do I actually get a specific area? So I'm just using this one here as a demonstration. So I want from here down to here. Now, how do I get that? So we just go into the client as just another sheet that we're going to do through here. And I'll just do that demo here. And then we just go equals, and then we come. So this is between sheet to sheet. So it's in the same spreadsheet that we're doing. We select all of those items there, and it's going to say you're mogadored, because we've actually got to put curly braces around inside here. We don't need the curly braces when we bring it in from the other side there. And then when we do that, it then shows us. So this is a copy of the stuff that we can do. Now, I can actually take that and I can say that is equal to that times 5. So therefore, I can actually, that data is still live. So that's still a number that I can actually use and manipulate and do stuff with. So that's a string field, but that's a number field that I can do. So that one I think isn't, because I've got so it's actually a string, so you'd have to modify that. But what I'm saying is you can still manipulate that data when you brought a copy across, as long as your data is in the right structure, good enough to do. So how do we then bring that across? So in the other one we've actually got, it's called service, that is the tab that we've got, and so that's the range of fields that we want. So inside here we just go equals import range, and then we go that field there, comma, that field there, close brackets, and it spits out that data. So we're in a totally different spreadsheet. So we can start doing data manipulator on here. We can actually just go, get tools or data, or insert a chart, and we can actually select 2 bits of data or something like that. It's thinking about it and doing it. And we can chuck that in there, and it will try and make a chart. So we can start dragging this information in and start manipulating it in this point in here. So we're not affecting and we're not overloading our original spreadsheet. So we're trying to keep that as fast as we damn well can. So the next little issue that I ended up having through here is when we ended up with the app, wherever it is, I'll find it eventually. And one of the ways that they talk about doing things in here is they talk about using collections to actually display rich information. In fact, collections seems to be a little bit. Yeah, I like the idea that it's a brand new thing, and I've got a feeling that it's going to grow and do awful lot of things. So when we actually look in here, what we can actually drag in, we can get titles, which I've actually got across here. These are the collections through here. There's some layout stuff through here, and there's some contact forms and stuff through here. I haven't really played with those. I was just trying to display data and get it and manipulate it and edit it. So we use collections. So I've got collections here, and I've just gone onto this spreadsheet here that I've linked onto to here. When I actually look on that, so I click on that part here, I can display that as cards, or I can display it as grids, or I can display it as lists, or with me, I like as much data as I can damn well get on the page. But again, I can't select any of this data through here. But I can inside, and this was the thing which I was saying within, again, inside tables, it's very hard to actually select a lot of the data. So this is where Google, I love the sheets, because you can actually just grab all of that data. And if you actually, so there, I can actually get a copy of it there, boom, straight away. Which I'm not able to do off the spreadsheets itself. So I've got to use these editing things. But the other thing is, I can only get 4 columns worth across here. So I can get one which is the date, one which is the hour, one which is the service, which I've got through here, and the last one which is an image. So it's almost like your normal title thing that you've got on your cards for your other apps and stuff like that. Now, but I have got an image here. On my other one through here, I did actually have an image. I had emojis, so I could use them as images through there. So that was sort of handy in its way. But I was left with this 4 fields, and that kind of got me a little bit mogadored. And then I actually thought, well, one of the things that you can actually do, don't want you to go away, is that, if you've only got 4 fields to play with, have I got 4 or 3? I can't remember now. I think I've got 3 fields to actually play with. And I wanted a button through here. So if this is the data that was coming through from the sales team, I needed a button here to switch or do something with. So if that was the case, how would I do that? So from the point of view, if we were looking at my other ones, I wanted to actually approve this bit of stuff through here. Well, what we can do is we can concatenate. We can join a whole lot of fields together. So we're not actually, all we're doing is just saying, take this field and another field, and just join them all together and just display them in that. And that's what I ended up having to do in my app as to what I can do. So when I actually look at each one, I've just got one line which tells me as much information I've got about as a certain sale thing, because I've only got a little bit of real estate to actually display things on. So you want to squash it all up and to do that. So I thought, well, that's it. So we can basically just use our concatenation through there. So we can just use concat. And I won't use the short one. Concat only allows you to join 2 things together. Concatenate will allows you to do things. So I can actually go concatenate there and there. Oh, sorry, and there, and there, and there, and there. So now I've got all of that displayed. Now, so I think, oh no, I don't like the dash. What I'm going to do is just do a double dash through there. So that actually spreads things out a bit further. So I can actually get a bit more space, or I can put a bit of air into there and actually maybe put a space and then another couple of dashes, so that everything's clearly defined as to which one it is. So straight away, instead of actually having 3 columns, which is actually taken up with information, I can just have 1 column, which actually gives me most of the information that I want. Because when I was actually looking at the Barber's app type thing through here, one of the things was, again, because this is old data, this is last year's data, I didn't have that much information on it. I would have actually put a filter on here so it's only showing a specific date, so that you can come down and choose a specific date so that they can analyze that. So I wouldn't actually have the date would be up here. I'd actually have a time column so I can see all the appointments that day. I'd actually have the service, and then I'd also want the user's name through here. So this is another one as well. Another one that I wouldn't mind having as well is maybe a count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 across here. Just so that if I was querying something, if I was suddenly saying, look at field number 4, on after I did a print off, I could say, look, row number 4 is where I've actually got a problem or something like that. So that is a way of getting through currently that item of, now this is a bit confusing. When you actually click on things here, you're sort of tempted to suddenly say go back or click on something there, but what you've actually got to do is just click on that header through there and it brings you back to the page that you actually want. So you can delve all the way in. So if this was just something that I needed to put a yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, I can actually have the rest of my data sitting within that space in one of these other columns so that I can actually make it a lot more readable. Now, again, from the point of view of being able to display this in another web page as an iframe or something like that, the idea was that you'd maybe have some information on shares or something, or, you know, just public data that you may want to display. But obviously we can't do that. You've actually got to open it up to do that. From the point of view of a business thing, obviously you'll be either in an intranet situation where you'll be accessing that data within a safe web browser type scenario. You would be out on the internet itself, or else you'd need to log in to be able to do this. So again, as well as this, you've got the options of things like the filter. So I've got this filtering and sorting by date. I can actually add a filter on here, only show a specific date, and then I think I can do an in-app filter, which may be on date or something like that. And I'm not too sure. Oh, here we are. So I can filter by date, so only show me Monday, and show me what the things are for Wednesday or whatever ones, if there's not that many on there. There must be something with a couple of them in the day. So again, you can actually start doing that. So from the point of view of the business people, that's really good. Now, as I said, at this point in time, it hasn't got things like graphs. And when I was actually doing the star facing one, I was using some pie charts and things like that to start trying to show some simple reporting that was be quite simple. Whereas on this one here, you could make a sheet doing the reporting through here. At this point in time, as I said, it's only out this month, so I'm sure all of these extra features will be coming in quite a lot. Another one that you might want to think about at this point in time is, I think there's a thing called Google Data Studio that allows you to create dashboards. So you could hook up your dashboard, which can be quite dynamic as well, that you could then use the reporting stuff. So you'd pull the data in from the original app, you pull it into here, and you would then display it on your web page or some other page in an iframe, so that you would actually have part of that dashboard through there. So we come full loop from where I started off. So I think from a business point of view, this is an absolute fantastic extra thing by Glide to do, and the fact that it's all inside the Glide and it's just sucking off the same data and everything is really marvelous. So I wish them all the best with all of this, because I think it's very good. I think this is the one where they're doing the sales type thing, but you know, you've got to have had the paid one to actually make sure that your web page is distinctive enough that they find it. So that was my initial thinking of actually having iframes inside another page, of which the website's already known that there's these other opportunities for things to do and stuff like that. So I've tried to demonstrate those things along the way of how to add those extra features by doing the concatenation and all of those. I hope you found it interesting. If you've liked the video, please give a thumbs up. If not, op panyaha. Thank you very much for watching.